All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to go over the Pittsburgh Steelers schedule. We'll talk about it, and I'll see if I can try to get them to at least 9 wins so Mike Tomlin can maintain his winning record here. But it is a very, very tough schedule. They did go 10-7 last season, started 3 different starting quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. The Steelers were able to win their last 3 games to get into the playoffs. So I know that lately it's not that big of a deal for Steeler fans because the Steelers make the playoffs and then they're out in the first round. So, but still, I mean, I give them credit because it looked like they weren't going to make the playoffs at all. So, but now they got a completely different quarterback room. Russell Wilson is now the starting quarterback. You have Justin Fields as the backup. And if Russell Wilson doesn't play well, then you kind of figure that Justin Fields is going to take over as the starter. So this is the Steelers' schedule. Now, I want to point out that weeks 11 through 18, that is going to determine whether the Steelers make the playoffs or not. It's going to be those games right there. Those last 8 games. They're brutal. They really are. And, from weeks 1 to 10, there are tough games in there, but it's doable. So, like I said, the last 8 games here, that's really going to determine whether the Steelers make the playoffs or not. So, let's go through their schedule here. So, they start off, so you got 2 quarterbacks now on new teams going at it in week 1. You got Kirk Cousins with the Falcons, and you got Russell Wilson now with the Steelers. Arthur Smith was the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He is now the offensive coordinator of the Steelers. Yeah, this one is a toss-up for me. I feel like this game could go either way. Now, a big part is, how is Russell Wilson going to play for the Steelers? And I said you're probably going to see more of the Russell Wilson from Denver, although the Steelers, they feel like he's the Russell Wilson from Seattle right now. You got Russell Wilson talking himself up. Feels great. So, we'll see if that's true. So I definitely could see the Steelers winning this game, or it could go either way. So I'll give him a win here. Because also, you got the defense, too. And I think the defense is going to be very good. That's, I think, what's ultimately going to carry this team, is the defense and the running game. The Steelers really prioritize the offensive line this offseason through the draft, and hopefully that pans out, because if it does, the running game is going to benefit from that, and Russell Wilson is going to benefit from that as well. So you also have the defense as well. The defense could force turnovers. You got T.J.Watt there. They could get after the quarterback. So, I don't think the Steelers on paper are a bad team. It's just, you got a brutal schedule, the second half of the year. But anyways, I think this will be a win here, but I could see it going either way. The Broncos, I don't think the Broncos are going to be very good this year, and it's a Russell Wilson revenge game, however you want to interpret that, but I think the Steelers can win this game here, so I'll give them another win. So you start off 2-0. Then the Chargers come to town. Steelers home opener. I think that's going to be a tough game because, like I've said on past shows, I think the Chargers, they're going to be a sneaky good team. But, the Steelers at home, the Chargers, I mean, you got Jim Harbaugh now there. I think, the defense is going to be better, I think, with him there. Yeah, it's tough. But, the Chargers offense, we'll see how that is, with the running backs now there. And Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. You got some young receivers that you got to work in. I think this game could be close. I think it could go either way. I'll take the Steelers at home. So Steelers start off 3-0 right now. 3-0. I feel like at this point they'll either be I guess 2-1 at this point maybe, because I have them at 3-0, but I don't know if I feel confident that that's going to happen. But we'll see. 3-0, 2-1 at this point. Then you take on the Colts. That's going to be a tough game. They did lose to the Colts in Indy late in the season. I feel like this is another game that can go either way. See, that's the thing about a lot of these games, though, is that this part of the Steelers' schedule is doable, but I feel like, some of these games could definitely go either way. At some point, I think the Steelers will. So I think they're either going to lose to the Colts or the Cowboys and lose their first game. So at this point, they'll be 4-1. Then they take on the Raiders. I think that's another tough game. The Raiders, they play well at home. The Steelers did go in there and beat them last year. So I think they could do that again and get the win. I lean towards the Steelers taking them. But again, the Raiders, I think now with the full season of Antonio Pierce, I think they're going to be a better team. I mean, they finished 8-9. So, I don't know, how much better. But with Gardner Minshew as the quarterback, again, could go either way, but I kind of lean towards the Steelers. Then an interesting game. This is a Sunday night game, I believe. You got the Jets coming in. Back-to-back weeks, you got the New York teams coming in. So, the Jets-Steelers game, it could be a toss-up. You know what? I might give them a loss there and give them a win against the Giants. So I think I'll just do that. So at this point, the Steelers got 2 losses. Then they take on the Commanders. I'm going to give them a win there. I mean, we'll see how Jane Daniels is playing at that point. But I'll give the Steelers the win there. Now, this is where we get to the part of their schedule that's a gauntlet. So let's see. I had them losing to the Jets, and I had them losing to the Cowboys. So at this point, you got 2 losses. They are 6-2, right? At this point. So this is where they were, this is where this is make or break for them, in my opinion. So I'm going to say they split with the Ravens because for some reason these last few years they've been able to win games that they shouldn't against the Ravens. So that's another win for them. I think they'll split with the Browns. It might come down to that Week 18 matchup with the Bengals on whether they make the playoffs or not. So, and last year they swept the Bengals, but that was with no Joe Burrow. The year before that, they also split with the Bengals. Or they swept the Bengals. Because they won the Week 1 matchup with the Bengals. That was an overtime game. So, but yeah, I got them splitting with the Ravens, splitting with the Browns. Possible split with the Bengals. Week 15 at Eagles. That one's going to be tough. I think that's going to be a loss. Chiefs at home. Now the Chiefs this is on Christmas. The Chiefs did lose to the Raiders on Christmas last year, and that was a home game. Now they're playing in Pittsburgh against that defense. But I don't know. I don't know if I could pick against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in that game here. I mean, we'll see. Listen, Russell Wilson did beat Patrick Mahomes last year, but that was when he wasn't feeling too good. So I'm still going to take the Chiefs there. And I guess maybe it'll come down to this Week 18 matchup in Cincinnati. And actually, no. It's going to be at home. And I just realized that I forgot to flip around the Bengals and the Steelers. It's a Steelers home game. But I forgot to flip it around, so that's my bad. I know, because I was saying, I'm like, wait. I thought they were finishing up the season at home. So yeah, the Steelers are supposed to be finishing up the season at home. That's my fault. So yeah, it could come down to that, and maybe the Steelers rise to the occasion. Because when they have their backs against the wall, they do come through at times, and I feel like this could be a game where they do that. So I'm going to say the Steelers, maybe they do split with the Bengals. They get the win, and maybe they sneak into the playoffs. So how many wins is that? So I had them winning against the Falcons, the Bengals, or the Broncos, the Chargers, one of the Cowboys-Colts games. I had them beating the Raiders, the Giants, the Commanders, all three of their divisional opponents. That gets you to... well, I counted 10. I don't think that's going to be 10. I think I'm going to knock it down to 9. So, yeah. I mean, 9 wins I think is doable. But I don't know. I mean, I had them starting off 3-0. I don't know if they're going to do that. Maybe they start off 2-1. But I could see, because I mean, the AFC North teams are going to beat up on each other. So, and I feel like the Steelers, with their defense and their running game, and maybe Russell Wilson is playing decent. He doesn't have to be great. Maybe, they steal a couple of wins. So I'm going to say 9 wins that they can get to it. But a lot of it has to do with the first half of their schedule. I think you get 6 wins from the first half of your schedule, and you can win. If you could split with your divisional opponents and go 3-3, there's your 9 wins right there. Because I think they should beat the Broncos. The Chargers at home, I think they can win that. The Falcons, I said they could win that. I think they should beat the Giants. The Commanders, I said, would be a win. The Colts and the Raiders. Yeah. So, I think that combined with splitting with your divisional opponents, I think that gets you to 9 wins. It's going to be tough, though. It's going to be tough. We got to see how this offense is. I mean, you got the defense. The defense can only do so much. The offense is going to have to generate some points as well. And I know one thing with the Steelers is they're looking for a number 2 wide receiver. Because the depth behind George Pickens, it's a question mark. Now, they drafted a receiver. They drafted Roman Wilson, but you signed a lot of guys. You signed Van Jefferson. Who else did they sign? Marquez Callaway as well. I'm trying to think of who else. Quez Watkins. I mean, these guys are more depth pieces. So they need to find. I mean, who knows? Maybe they trade for Brandon Ayuk. I know there were some rumors swirling about that being a possibility. Well, not really that being a possibility, but that could be a possible destination for him. Because I know there was that story earlier in the season or earlier in the offseason. It was about Brandon Ayuk and Mike Tomlin. So I don't know. But that's the Steelers' schedule, though. And I know, like I said, week 11 through 18, it's a gauntlet. But I don't think it's not like the Steelers are going to lose every single game. I think they could get that. I think getting those 9 wins, I think that's doable. But it's really going to have to come down to how do they fare the first half of the year. Because I think from weeks, they have a bye week 9, but I think from weeks 1 to 10, all those games are winnable. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to win every single one of them, but I think if they could at least get to 6, I think they could split with each of their divisional opponents. And if not, then you probably see 8. So I'm going to say 8 or 9 wins. They're going to finish around there. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. How many games do you think the Steelers will win in 2024? So before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys, once again, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we get back from our second break of the show, we'll talk about some comments Tom Brady made about Peyton Manning, calling him the gold standard of quarterbacks at his Patriots Hall of Fame induction. So we'll get into that. I'll kind of just talk about the Manning-Brady rivalry when we get back from our second break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.